Good morning, YouTubians. Last episode, if you've been following, we replaced the front wheel bearings on both sides, and I'm still getting the noise off the left side of the car. So yesterday my wife and I took it out, and I had her head sticking over the side of the car trying to tell me, where's that noise coming from? Where's that noise coming from? Can you see that? That's terrible. The right rear wheel bearing I just ordered this morning, and I was going through the tickets on everything that Chevy had done to this car. They replaced the left rear wheel bearing. That's the only record of wheel bearings I've had proof that has been replaced. I checked it, it's fine. I'm not going to do that one. But today I think I'm really going to start working on the dash, and we're going to try and pull that out of there, and we are going to break into the instrument cluster. We'll have to come all the way down with it, all the boards out, and neatly stack and track parts, clean it up, and put our new polarized film so that we have accurate way to read our speed and tack. So we'll see how that goes. Because of its solid state design, the instrument cluster assembly is not repairable by, nor can the home mechanic disassemble it. It is extremely expensive to replace. If a malfunction occurs, the instrument cluster assembly is recommended that it be taken to a dealer for repairs. Do not ever use a dealership. I'm going to tell you, there are some things I've seen in the stuff that the previous owner had done on this car, where it may have needed new joints, U-joints. They wanted to replace the whole drive shaft. They won't press U-joints in. And what he has spent on this car in the past is unbelievable. And the conclusion that I have come to, if you are not a mechanic, you simply cannot own one of these cars unless you're just extremely rich. You're going to put more into it than it's worth. Being able to do the labor yourself is pretty much the only way you're ever going to successfully maintain or restore one of these cars. YouTube helps a lot. There's a lot more information out now on how to do things, but I know for a fact, and I'm going to go step by step through Crazy Uncle Burton's explanations on how to repair this instrument cluster. But again, dealerships will never tell you this, but they make most of their money mocking up the prices and through charges of auto repairs. That's how they make their money. And I highly recommend never take your car to a dealership unless it is under warranty. You know, you can find plenty of good mechanics out there who are honest, that charge an honest price, but you have to shop around, word of mouth. You know, dealerships are just crooked. Sorry. As I was saying, dealerships generally don't want to repair certain things. It's easier for them just to replace whole assemblies. Costs so much more to do that, and that's generally what they do. This has been replaced before from what I've seen on the records, and this was over $1,200 to replace at the dealership. So that kind of gives you an idea. If you can fix it yourself, or you know, find a mechanic that gets a little more detailed with what he does, that's what I would do. On your thing here, I've gotten it loose, and I'm gonna pop it out here in a second, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This one back in the corner you can't get to with a regular screwdriver, so I just took a little screwdriver insert extension, and they're loose enough where you can get it. Also, your headlight switch has to come off, and I'm sure you all know how to do this. Fords are the same way, but see that little clip there? You just kind of get in and bend that up, and since we've got our lights unhooked, we're not messing with them. It's not coming on, but I just took a coat hanger and bent it and was able to get right in there and take that off. Alright, it's hard to hold the camera and do this too, but you'll see on your right side you've got 2 plugs back there, and the hooks are, you pry the blue pin up a little bit with your finger, and just take a flathead screwdriver if I could get this to hold here, you can see, you'll figure it out. But pop those off and you're freed up. And you had two 7mm bolts that held it in place in the top. While in the corners, one in the corner here and one in the corner there. And you really want to take these screws loose, but somebody's been in here before, not going to say who, and they can get all the screws back in. So this is loose and they're plastic and they've been popped. You'll get some probably vibration and noise out of that, and you know, but it's what people do sometimes, and I found that on a lot of things that have been worked on this car. And it comes out that easy. It's been missing bolts on almost everything that I've gotten back into that the dealership has done. So, you know, you think you're getting a good quality job, and I'm going to quit dogging them, but it's just a matter of fact. If it's not your car, who cares? You know, you're never going to know the difference because you obviously don't know what you're doing because you're taking it to them. So they get away with a lot more than you think. One of the reasons I think that the photo paper faded faster than it probably would on a normal Corvette. The top center one was a little more shaded under the dash, and I could actually read the information on this one. The bulbs were blinking in and out, and I could tap it and they would come back on. I know I'm going to have to clean the contacts when I get in there. The bulbs looks like you can replace from the front, but we're going to come all the way through to the back. We're going to have to actually disassemble it to get the glass out. These two were so faded that you couldn't see the information, and unless you've got the sunglasses that are polarized, you can hold them about, you know, that far off, and you can vaguely see that the information is there. But the reason I think that this one did it quicker is because this is a convertible, and it was an estate car at a house in Orange Beach, Alabama, and I would say it spent a lot of its time with the top down in that hot sun, and I'm assuming that's why we're having to come into this again. I can't remember on the ticket when it said it was replaced, but I think it was late 90s they replaced it. And again, the part was over $1,200 to replace one of these completely. Yeah, as I'm looking at this, I told you that it was two bolts that were 7mm that held it in the top two corners. There's actually supposed to be 4. And I remember reading this in the manual as I hold it against the white. You can see along the steering column that there's supposed to be 2 more. They didn't put them back in. So, keeps on and on with that kind of thing. I'm going to have to find, or go to the hardware store and find these, and I will put it back like it's supposed to go. Okay, we got this nice soft cloth so we don't scratch our front, and a little magnetic bowl here so we don't lose anything. These were 7/32. There was 4 of them in here, and this should just lift right off. Yep. This looks as though it very well may have been replaced. This is pretty clean in here compared to a lot of them that I've seen online. That's where I've gotten my learning from. And again, same thing here. There's a few things that'll have to be unplugged. We're going to cautiously do that as we go, but I've got my laptop out here with me, and I'm going to kind of follow along with Batty.com, Crazy Uncle Burton, and try and get through this tonight and put it back in. It's a lot easier sitting here and doing this. I like this work a lot better than sweating my ass off under that car. So we'll see what we can do and get this thing corrected. You can see where these have created so much heat from the original style bulbs. The xenon bulbs, I think, are going to be a great improvement on this. I really, really do. Well, I think our paint looks really well. I don't think we're going to have to paint anything on this board. This board is in actually pretty good shape. Much better than I thought it would have been. Just the fact that it's a convertible has faded out those polarized covers. Very clean inside here. Most of the goop off of it. I don't know if you can see that. It's still got that residue on it. But I'm going to use a little bit of alcohol. I know from window tinting you're not supposed to use anything with ammonia in it, and Windex has ammonia. I think this will assist in scraping the rest of it off here. Looks pretty good. Yeah, it's helping. Try and wipe the rest of the residue off. And that's pretty freaking clean. When I get them inside, I'll go over them again a little bit, just get the dust off before I lay on. And be real careful. These are glass, but I think alcohol works better. Just do not get it on your data side of the plate. Now we got to do these two. And the kid, he gave you 3 blades, so it might be a good idea. We may switch to another blade here in a second. Getting it started is the hard part. And the last one I did, I got off the outer coating, and there was another coating underneath. Kind of slowly trying to get a good start. Take my time. And I did. I cut my finger on the blade, and the other one. Boy, they were so baked. it just comes off in pieces sometimes. You get a little piece here started, and we're just trying to slowly pull. That one I was able to get off in one piece. You can see maybe where I started razor blading it, and just peeled it a little bit side to side. But you see your problem there. Polarized, non-polarized. But it's actually a pretty thick piece. If you can get it off in one piece, it's a lot easier that way. And I had a couple of different options for a non-slip pad. These are the little things you get that go in your toolbox to keep your tools from sliding around. I had another one that was a solid piece that was a little too sticky, and I was afraid if I get it too sticky, I very well could screw up the paint here. And I might just take a little bit of water and clean that after I tin it, but we are going to use this. It's not that sticky, and I don't think it's going to bother the paint. Make sure you're on the front side. And then we've got our panel covers here. Be careful of them, they should overlap a little bit. Now I've got the last fresh razor blade set aside to trim the tint on these panels. Speedo tack panel, both of these show the same. And this is the center information control. And if you'll look, yeah, you got plenty. Your indentions are on the back sides, so nice and centered up. Start the leading edge there. Grab paper, this finger here. Takes a decent amount of pressure. Slowly pull back a little more. Get my thing a little bit wet there. As I'm pulling the paper away, not getting too far ahead of myself. Got a bubble there, I'll come back up. I don't do too much because I don't want to scratch it. Oh yeah. I don't think those are bubbles I'm seeing in it. I think that is there's no texture at all. That's actually the digital under the glass. And if you can see, that looks a lot better. And mine I'm not going to have to paint. It's actually in pretty freaking good shape. It's just it was so clean inside the cluster. The cluster wasn't that old. Got a little piece of dust up there. Clean it up a little bit. That actually came out nice. So we'll go through and do the rest of them just like that, and like the hard edge on this actually I think works better than, because this is thicker than tint, so it needs a little more pressure. I'm satisfied with that. I'm very happy with that. So I could sit here and show you every one, but the video would be 2 hours long. But you can see that turned out really nice, and we'll get them all back that way, and we'll come and trim the edges. We'll do that now on this one. And I saved a razor blade for that. Of course you can buy razor blades, but it's just good the fact that he does send them. Just come in here and come down this way. Trim that excess off. See about where the glass is. Actually, it's going to be better if we do it this way. Okay, get right up against the glass. You probably want to trim with the pressure just do it till you feel that blade touch the glass, but you're going to want to put the pressure down. I think that's the only edge we've got to trim just about. Well, now, same thing here. We'll trim it. Now I'm not going back through this step by step as I'll reassemble it. Reassembly is the opposite almost of assembly, but I recommend highly that you go to batty.com and he'll show you step by step how to reassemble whatever your cluster you're working on. A couple of things I do know that I'm going to do. I've got a wire brush here in these contacts that go for the bulbs. They were really hot running, and they were blinking a little bit. Very lightly do it. You don't want to get into your board at all. So I want to make sure that I'm getting good contact on those bulbs, because that was a previous issue. But honestly, I think it was just the bulbs. But I am taking off noticeably some stuff. And these aren't the only contacts that I'm going to do this way. These are the only ones I'm going to do exactly this way, because on the bulb fittings I'm going to use just a little bit of dioelectric grease, and that will make sure that I'm getting a good connection. But on my number one board, I'm not going to do that, because those contacts are so close together, and I don't think it's necessary. It doesn't take much at all to clean those up. Probably should have done this before I put the board in, but I'm not really creating a lot of dust at all that way. And the blinking ones there, they look very clean, but you can tell these were a little bit discolored, and that's why I did that. And I'm just going to take very little bit of this stuff and get it on my finger and just touch on each contact. And again, I'm just doing this for the bulbs. The xenon bulbs that I'm putting back in are gas-filled bulbs. They actually will burn cooler and more efficiently than the original bulbs. They also require less power to run. This LED panel is pretty much a computer, and it has a power supply like a computer does. And from what I've researched, when they built these, this is through-hole soldering. This is not surface mount. This was in 1989. The bulbs were pulling so much power, you know, it could have burned your power supply out. So there's your number one reason to upgrade your bulbs if you're going to do this. Everything looks so much clearer now. Oh, I love it. Hold your thumb over that, it should go dimmer in a few seconds. Yeah. There it goes, going dimmer. Take it off, it'll brighten up. Everything works. You just got it sitting there to make sure. Loving it. No more staring at the console for my speed on my GPS. Perfect. And if I switch over to kilometers, just got to do that. It should, yeah. If I go to metric, yeah, it switches to the other side. Yes. We're getting there. We're getting there. And I cleaned up the odometer dial really well. And happy with it. I cleaned out really well underneath and behind. My AC vents are filthy. I'm going to have to go through and figure out and fix all that. Happy. I'm happy. Thank you, Crazy Uncle Burton. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.